What's good, y'all? Welcome back. Today, we're going to be reacting to the highly recommended Slapshoes. We're watching top 10 NASCAR records that will never be broken. Y'all are always telling me to react to Slapshoes. Talk to my homie. He recommended me, two good Slapshoes videos to watch. So we're going to have a Slapshoes video today and then one for Friday. I hope y'all enjoy it. Original video link will be down in the description if you haven't already seen it, which I'm sure you guys have. Let's get into the video.
Unbeatable records. Just about every single sport has them, and NASCAR is absolutely no exception. From track records to win streaks,
he has the voice for shit like this too.
Seasons, NASCAR has a lot of records to beat, and I think I've scrapped together 10 that you will never see beaten no matter how long you live. So without further ado, number 10. Jimmie Johnson makes the chase every single year. The first chase field in 2004 was basically the top 10 regular season drivers with the highest points at the Richmond race in the fall of that year. Since then, who can and cannot be in the chase field has changed over time. It went from 10 drivers, something like 12, and now it's 16. Well, no matter the format, Jimmie Johnson has made the chase every single year since 2004. Now, since I have recorded this in late March of 2018, so far the season looks pretty rocky for Jimmie Johnson. That streak might get broken. Even if Jimmie Johnson fails to make the chase this year in 2018, still 14 chase appearances in a row.
Wait, how old is this
ridiculous.
Video? I wonder.
Nobody else is even really that close. And with as streaky as some of these new drivers coming up through the field are, yeah, I don't think anybody's going to chain together 14 of these things ever again. I don't care if they make the field 20 chase drivers next year. Number 9, Richard Petty wins 7 Daytona 500s. From 1964 to
that's a lot of Daytona 500
Richard
wins.
Petty won an unprecedented 7 Daytona 500s. It's hard enough to win one of those things. If you win 2, you're considered a really great driver in the ranks of Bill Elliott.
But this man won 7.
Jimmie Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr. 3, you're talking about legendary status. Jeff Gordon, Bobby Allison. 4, Cale Yarborough, easy Hall of Famer. 7, you're in a different ballpark, and the King Richard Petty more than earns his name in this regard. 1964, 1966, 1971, 1973, 1974. The infamous fight in the infield in 1979 when he passed by Donnie Allison and Cale Yarborough after they wrecked each other in turn 3. And then finally the win in 1981 with a brand new record most definitely whenever he broke it. They'd gone from these big, huge cars from the 70s, and they had shrunk them down into more compact, modern-looking cars. And still, Richard Petty was able to wheel that thing to a victory. It took nearly 2 decades for Richard Petty to get all of those Daytona 500 victories. And with drivers' careers getting shorter and shorter to avoid injury, yeah, I don't think this one's ever going to be broken. Not to mention how chaotic restrictor plate racing is these days. Richard Petty had the advantage of not having to worry about that since the restrictor plate didn't come into play until 1987. So far, the records have been pretty good. Most Daytona 500 victories, most chase appearances, but for number 8, how about a record nobody wants to get? Number 8, J.D. McDuffie starts 653 races and never wins a single one.
Without a victory, that's a horrible one.
Without a win. He also held the most last-place finishes until 2014 when Joe Nemechek finally bopped him. Now consider this, if you started your car in every single race in a 36-race season for 18 years, you still wouldn't have 653 starts. McDuffie's career spans from the early 1970s all the way into 1991, in which he was tragically killed in Watkins Glen. Had he not died there, he probably would have added to this record, but I also want to say this. This guy was no slouch. In 653 starts, he finished in the top 10 106 times. That's actually not that bad. As a matter of fact, there's actually a pretty good case to make that he is the best driver to never win a NASCAR Cup race. So what kept him going? Well, according to him, he just liked to race. It was a thing he liked to do most with his time, and well, who's to tell him to stop? Apparently he made a pretty decent career out of it. I mean, hell, if you told me I could race in NASCAR and make the same amount of money I'm making now and I'd finish dead last in every single race, hell yeah, I'd start racing for you. What can I say?
No cap.
Living the dream. So let's get back on track with those records that you definitely want to break if you ever get an opportunity. Number 7, Mark Martin wins the fastest race ever. Now, you might think this race had to occur back in the 80s, back when the Aero Wars were going on.
Holy, they're moving.
Guys were pulling 200-mile-an-hour laps. Well, you'd be wrong. It was back in the blocky old days of the 90s cars with restrictor plates, if you can believe it. At the Winston 500 at Talladega Superspeedway in 1997, Mark Martin set a record that I say will never be beat. With an average race speed of 188.354 miles per hour, this is hands down the fastest race in NASCAR history.
How fast was this man going?
500-mile race that took just 2.5 hours, actually a smidgen over 2.5 hours. The race ran perfectly caution-free the entire time. Now, with the advent of stage racing where cautions come out a guaranteed 2 times every single race, and the fact that the last caution-free race was in 2001, ironically at Talladega, a track that is known for having huge wrecks, it's a pretty safe bet that this record is never ever going to be broken. If this record was ever going to be beaten, it would have to be at one of the big tracks. Daytona, Talladega, Michigan, California.
So basically it went by so fast because there were no cautions.
Whoever
Is that what
won
you're
the
saying?
race would have to have perfect pit stops. There'd have to be no fuck-ups, nothing. Speaking of getting
No
perfect
fuck-ups,
speed, number
nothing.
6, Bill Elliott qualifies at 212.809 miles an hour. Yeah, Mark Martin holds the record for fastest race, but the fastest single lap was by Bill Elliott in qualifying at Talladega in 1997.
Oh, wow.
Just a smidge under 213 miles an hour average. That is blisteringly fast.
That's
Officially, he
extremely
did
fast.
2.66 miles in 44.998 seconds.
That's
Ironically
crazy.
enough, events from this race would cause NASCAR to put on the restrictor plate, which would essentially just about half the horsepower a NASCAR engine was able to put out. This dropped speeds down from the 210s down to 180s by
Oh,
themselves.
shit.
This is probably a good thing because in the pack, cars could get 220 miles an hour. Hell, without the restrictor plate with modern engines, some cars have been clocked unofficially at like 235 miles an hour. And
Oh,
considering we're
wow.
having cars flying to the catch fence at 190 miles an hour these days, yeah, I don't think NASCAR's in a big hurry to take away that restrictor plate. Safe
Yeah,
to say
please,
this
yeah,
one's
don't-
gonna
don't
stand
take
the
that
test of
away.
time. And if you
Never
thought we
do
were
that.
done with King Richard Petty, well, think again. Number 5, the King wins 10 races in a row. In 1967, Richard Petty ran what has to be as close as any human being can get to the perfect season. He won 10 races in a row. Now, granted,
wow.
they were running 48 race seasons back then, but even then, that's incredible. And while we're on the topic, let's go
'Cause I
ahead
feel
and
like
get
it'd
to
be
number
really
4. 1967
difficult to win a
again,
race.
Richard Petty wins 27
Back to back to
races
back to back
in
to
a
back like that.
season.
Just in
Driving
general.
an old Plymouth, Richard Petty absolutely wore them out that year. If there was ever a year in which Richard Petty earned the name The King, it was in 1967. All hail King Richard Petty, the first of his name, protector of the good years, and defender of the cup. Long may he reign. Okay, so we've had some really big names up here thus far. Mark Martin, Bill Elliott, Richard Petty, Jimmie Johnson. Well, how about a guy you've probably never heard of? Number 3. Herb Thomas has the best win percentage of all time. If you only count
Herb
drivers who have a
Thomas.
total of 100 starts, Herb Thomas has the highest win percentage.
This
hands
looks old
down,
school
with
as hell.
21.05%. 48 wins across 228 starts, meaning that just about every 5 times he cranked up his engine, he was gonna win. It should come as no surprise that he was NASCAR's first 2-time champion and the first guy to get multiple wins at the Southern 500. His first race was in 1949. He really only ran full-time in the early to mid-50s, and his last race was in 1962 at North Wilkesboro. He did most of these achievements driving the old fabulous Hudson Hornet, but he did bounce around between Chevrolets, Buicks, Chryslers, just basically anything he thought could win. After a severe injury in Shelby, North Carolina during a race, he was pretty much done racing. I really do wonder what else he could have done had he not been injured in 1957 out there in Shelby, North Carolina.
Right, he
But it
probably
did
could have
pretty
got a
much
lot of
cement that he
wins.
has the best win percentage ever. His longtime rival
kept it
Tim
going.
Flock actually has the second best win percentage at 20.856, 39 wins and 187 starts. Third is no surprise the Silver Fox himself, David Pearson, with 18.293%, 105 wins and 574 starts, and Richard Petty, pretty much by sheer volume alone, has a 16.892. Jimmie Johnson's win percentage is somewhere in the high 14s, and Jeff Gordon's is 12.627. Now, if I were making this list in the mid-2000s, I would say that number 2 had to be Cale Yarborough, being the only guy to win 3 championships in a row. But by the time the 2000s ended and the early 2010s came along, well, that record got broken. Number 2, Jimmie Johnson wins 5 championships in a row. From 2006 to 2010, Jimmie Johnson went on a tear. A lot of people worried that he would
Jimmie Johnson sounds like a really good driver.
Myself included. I mean, when you have one guy just dominating like that, it really is something spectacular.
Sounds like he'd be killing it every time he races.
Petty had 7 championships, but they're actually pretty well spaced out. The guy who actually came closest to matching this was Dale Earnhardt Sr. In 1990, 1991, 1993, and 1994, he won the championship 4 times out of 5, with only Alan Kulwicki besting him in 1992. While Jimmie Johnson was on this tear, NASCAR changed the chase format 3 times, and at one point they completely changed the point system wholesale, the entire thing from the ground up, and he still found a way to win. It should also come as no surprise that Jimmie Johnson also has 7 championships. He also matches the king in that. So number 1 on this list is not going to be 7 championships, because that might get topped soon if Jimmie Johnson can get his stuff together. So for number 1, let's go back to the king. The king, Richard Petty, won 200 races. From the late 1950s
what? 200?
1992, King Richard Petty was either A, winning everything in sight, or
literally
B, the most popular guy in the garage. Granted, he won most of these races pre-modern era, before 1972 when the race.
I mean, but that's still a lot of races
to
win. As I said
earlier, back in the 60s, they were having 48, 45, 50 race seasons. Pretty much every single week there was a race or 2 going on. And Richard Petty, with the help of his father Lee Petty, had not just a race team, but a race company. They were able to get to just about every single race, every single season. So it's really not surprising with a team that has that kind of money behind them, able to make every single start, they're able to string together the most wins in NASCAR history. For the last 2 decades, we've had 36 races a season. Let's say you could have just an astronomical season, like Jeff Gordon's 1998 season with 13 wins. You would have to do that every single year for 8 years just to top 100. Now do it again. Yeah, that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Not going to happen anytime soon.
The king is the king for a reason. I'm Slapshoes. Those are the top 10 NASCAR records that will never be broken.
Those are some interesting ass records. Those were some extremely interesting records that I thought probably never existed before I even knew about NASCAR. That's insane. I really enjoy Slapshoes' videos. His voice isn't annoying. So that is beautiful, because some people I just can't stand listening to on YouTube. I just can't do it. But I enjoy his videos. I like the layout. I like the format. I like how he explains everything, and it makes sense. It's just he does a good job of what he does. So I will most definitely be reacting to more of his stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the reaction. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. I love y'all. Peace.
They wanna forward, like I was down bad, was stuck in the mud. Now nigga done cleaned up Louis V on the so-so.